For the last probably few days, maybe a week, I've had a training partner at home. My mate decided to do some training, so he's kind of joined me in some of my sessions. He's actually done quite a few sessions, actually. Originally, we planned for like 3 days a week, but he's done probably 4 in the last week. He hasn't trained at all for many, many years, probably over 10 years. So a long, long time away from training of any sort. I think he played a little bit of soccer and basketball in that decade, but nothing like this. What I find interesting is how some people are just built different. So me and him are different proportions. I've got long legs, short torso in terms of relative ratios, and he has a short set of legs and a long back. So he's a natural squatter and I'm not. So this is a guy that hasn't touched a barbell in God knows how long, comes in, squat looks really, really nice. Obviously, it would get better over time with movement and training and whatever, but the moment he squatted, I was like, man, I am so jealous. So freaking jealous. He's got dorsiflexion. He's got the ability to stay upright. He just looks comfortable. And he said to me, I just feel comfortable squatting. The other day, we tried to do some kind of posterior chain stuff because he's so quad dominant. He's so anterior dominant. Try to teach him the Romanian deadlifts. And we had trouble there. Whatever we tried, his initial intuition is to shift the knees forward and go into his quads. So his struggles with the RDLs is kind of like my struggles with the squat. It's just our bodies are made to do certain things and we constantly have to fight to do something that's opposite. So deadlifting for me is natural as anything. It just feels like that's exactly what my body needs to be doing. Squatting is trouble. I've worked on it for a very, very long time and I've progressed a lot, but it's always been against the grain, as I like to call it. So for somebody like me that loves squatting, seeing my mate squat, it's like, man, that is sick. I absolutely love that. You look so natural, so comfortable. But the interesting thing is we all have something to work on. We all have something to work on. So if squatting comes easy to you, probably deadlifting doesn't. I'm sure there are people out there who are perfectly balanced and they kind of feel somewhat medium about both lifts. But rarely do you have somebody that is perfect squatting, fully upright, and also has an easy time deadlifting. Usually beginners fall in one of the camps, So it doesn't really matter where you are, who you are, what you struggle with. There's always something that you benefit from. If you have really, really, really long arms and you struggle with bench press and you can't bench press two plates, those really, really long arms probably benefit you a lot when it comes to deadlifting. That's just the way it is. If you go really, 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 really short legs, you're probably squatting really well. But because of that ratio of short legs and long torso, you're probably going to struggle with the deadlift. Purely because when you lean over, the lever between your pelvis and your shoulders is going to be long. And so it's simple physics. Some people say to me, but what if I have long everything? Well, you can't, because this is relativity we're talking about. You can't have, this is in relation, right? So it's you're comparing these two things. If you have a 1-to-1 ratio, okay, then you're not long anyway. You're just balanced. It just reminds me when I see my mate when he's moving that, you have some things that come naturally to you and then other things that don't, and that's simple as that. And so, philosophically speaking, where should you be? Should you work on the weakness or work on the strength? Just as it turns out, I've fallen in love with the squat purely because I found it so difficult and it was a challenge. And I'm like, man, I got to work this out. Why do I always roll back onto my back when I try to squat? So it kind of intrigued me as a challenge for me to learn, and it kind of developed into a real interest. And now I've done 5 years of squatting every day. And so that's just, my personality. I got attracted to something that was difficult. But inherently, I've worked really, really hard on something that I'm naturally weak at. And so I've worked on my weakness really, really hard. And what I've found is that my strength just naturally went along with the weakness training. So from my perspective, from my experience, I would say work on your weakness. So for my mate, squatting comes easy to him. So maybe the recommendation is spend a lot of your time working on your posterior chain. Work on RDLs, work on the GHD back raises, good mornings, things of that nature where you are working on the posterior chain. Now, when you're a beginner and let's say you're a novice, not only are you very unfamiliar with some of these movements, but you also don't have the work capacity. So my mate, he's got a desire to train, but I'm always like, man, like you need to rest. So he's like, should I squat every day? I'm like, hell no, you can't squat every day. You're sore. And he's been sore now for 4 days. What I try to kind of like put him on the path of is kind of like the 5x5. Really, I started with 3x5 method. Kind of like a strong lift setup, So you squat, you bench, you row, you squat, you overhead press, you deadlift, kind of like that. Focusing on the strength movements. But because he's been, coming over and training with me consecutive days, so he trained yesterday. So yesterday I was like, man, like let's stay away from deadlifts and squats and let's just do arms. So I had him do bicep curls. I had him do some pullovers. I had him do some lateral raises, just stuff that doesn't involve axial loading. It doesn't involve that strength, compound movements that really tax you. So it's always interesting. I'm finding it really interesting now to relay all of the information that I have, all of the experience that I have to somebody that's just starting out. There's so many things you have to be aware of. He doesn't have the work capacity to do 10 sets of 10. As much as his mind wants to do that and he's really fired up to train, he doesn't have the ability to do that. So we have to kind of like, augment that will for training and his physical ability to take training. So it's kind of a bit of a balancing act. But I'll look at him and I'm like, man, I'm so jelly. I am so jealous of you and your squatting. I just think to myself, man, if I was built like him and I put 10 years into squatting, man, it's just a natural movement, right? It's just natural movement. Squatting is just easy. Like he's balanced, his dorsiflexion is amazing. His tibia to femur ratios are amazing. So it all just comes nice, nicely. And so when he squats, he doesn't have a lot of posterior chain, requirement. His lower back is not getting fried like mine. But because my lower back is getting absolutely smoked when I squat, every time I squat, when I get to the deadlift, I'm like, oh my God, my back is so strong. Like I just feel at home deadlifting. It's just funny how it works. But, you work with what you got and that's basically how it has to be. Appreciate you guys. I will catch you in the next one. Peace out.